Welcome to Play in School TV, episode 39. I'm Rich Prado. In today's episode, we talk about early commitments. Just about a month ago, the Ivy League put out a statement with their stance on early commitments and early recruiting. You're going to find out in just a minute what my opinions are on that. But before we go too far, I want to ask you to go follow me at Play in School on Twitter, because I'd love to hear what you think about the Ivy League's comments. I'd love to hear what you think about my comments. I'd love to hear what your opinion is on the matter. So here's their statement from the Ivy League, September 21st. I'll put the link below, but basically, if you Google, the Ivy League advocates to limit early recruiting of prospective student athletes. I get it. Things have gotten out of hand. I describe it as an epidemic. And the reason I use such a strong word is we're seeing kids committing earlier and earlier and earlier on all different sports. This is not just a baseball centric comment. What that has led to is the true epidemic. I don't care about the early commitments. What I care about is the new phrase that we see all the time, decommitment. Okay, you see that, look it up on Twitter, you're going to see decommitments every single day. Now, it seems like the journalists of each sport are announcing decommitments just as much as they're announcing commitments. It's like these kids have now become free agents and they're back on the market. So let me talk about a little bit about what the Ivy League's statement was. First of all, they go into how important the decision where a kid goes to college is. Agree, 100%. They talk about how much stress the college choice is on a family and a prospective student athlete. I agree, 100%. They talk about the life-altering decision and the impact that decision has. The Ivy League goes on to talk about that their goals are to elevate the national conversation about the early recruiting and what I describe as the epidemic of the decommitments after these early commitments. Obviously, there are rules in place that prohibit actual signing with a college until certain dates. Correct? We all know that. However, as they address in this letter, there are various workarounds. And that's why you see kids that are freshmen who have committed. And I use my bunny ears often when I'm talking about this stuff because they're committing and then 6 months later have decommitted. So, how committed were they? That's my question. Okay. So, the Ivy League proposes, basically in a nutshell, that verbal offers cannot happen until junior year. They don't want the freshman and sophomore to have to worry about this stuff. They want to push back the timeline, okay, and put everybody on an even playing field and theoretically give these kids a chance to mature and figure out where their best fit is, okay. They want to push it back until junior year. I see where they're coming from. I think that's, for most kids, I think that's really, really wise. Wait until you're ready. So, go look it up, read the whole letter. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I want to tell you about my thoughts for 1 second. In the real world, where you and I live, there are consequences for decisions that we make. When we make a strong decision or a good decision, we oftentimes get rewarded for that decision. When we make poor decisions in the real world, we have to live with the consequences. And so what I propose, and this is what I would consider a framework, a 30,000 foot view of what could be a good way to approach the early commitments. Okay, here it is. Again, there's a lot needs to be filled in, a lot of blanks that need to be filled in. This is not a perfect answer, but I think we could run with this thread, and people that are much smarter than I am could fill in the blanks, but I've heard a lot of college coaches who have the same idea and who support what I'm about to say. Let's do this. How about, instead of doing verbal commitments and verbal offers, how about you can sign a player at any given time? I don't care if a kid is a 5th grader, but let's eliminate the verbal offer. Let's make the kid sign the line, okay? I want binding contracts. I want the school to show they are serious, and I want the student to also show they are serious. Now, let's get back to consequences. So, right off the bat, if we are signing on the line and we have a contract, that's going to eliminate 90% of our early commitments, because now schools aren't going to make offers to those borderline kids just to make sure that they keep them away from their rival. Okay? They're not going to give a verbal offer to a kid and then bring them on campus just to cut them, just in case that kid progresses. Those types of verbal offers will no longer happen. When we sign on the line and make a legal contract, only the elite will continue to be early commitments. And I'm totally cool with that. If you're a 5th grader and you throw 85 miles an hour, sign that kid. Sign that kid immediately. I got no problem with the early commitment. But here's the second half of the plan. Going back to consequences. If one of the parties breaks the contract, they have to pay with a consequence. Okay? Like I talked about, in the real world, there are consequences for decisions. So let's talk about possible consequences. If a school signs a kid, remember, legal contract, and they back out of that legal contract, I propose that they have to give up the money. They lose the scholarship money that they had offered that kid. Okay, right off the bat, schools are going to be much more picky about who they're offering money to early. Let's flip it around. The player, if he chooses to back out of his legally binding contract, I believe he should sit a year. Right off the bat, that's going to prevent most kids from signing early. Okay? What I've been an advocate for this entire time is for kids to end up at the schools that are the best fit for them. And so when we put some consequences in place, the kids are going to do more research. The coaches are going to do more research. They're going to, here's an analogy. Everybody talks about the recruiting process sort of like dating and getting married when you finally commit. The dating process is going to last a little bit longer between player and program. And I think that's a good thing. So just like in the real world where decisions have consequences, I think these early commitments and then decommitments need to also come with consequences. If you break your legally binding contract, you need to pay for it. So where I differ from the Ivy League is I don't think we need to wait till junior year. I think we can offer kids anytime you want, put it on paper. I'd love to hear what you think about this. Again, there's a lot of blanks that need to be filled in. I recognize that. I would love for you guys who are way smarter than me to maybe come up with the what if this scenarios and figure out how we can come up with a great game plan. I think college coaches would support this. I think more than anything, it would eliminate 90% of the early commitments. Okay, that middle of the road guy who's going to that middle of the road school, he doesn't need to commit early. If you're an elite player and you're committing to an elite program and an elite academic institution, commit early. I support that. So at Play in School on Twitter, would love to hear your feedback on this particular topic. And if you have any questions that you would like me to bring up here on Play in School TV, I'd love to hear from you. So until next time, see you at the field.